The F-15 and Falcon BMS is absolutely amazing. I'm Hades
All right,
1-1.
listen up.
We got a sweet mission dialed in. Let's go sling explosive telephone poles at the enemy. If you're new to BMS, you probably recognize it as one of the best F-16 simulators ever created. And it's kind of silly to be flying the F-15 in such a game. But the amount of care and effort that has gone into this F-15 is absolutely unparalleled. It is the best F-15C simulator we have on the market completely. So here's the thing. We took off from our airbase and immediately I noticed on the radar, like, we have contacts that are not along our flight path. Like, our initial waypoint, the one we're supposed to go to, is in a completely different direction, but I can't ignore these contacts. You'll see I'm contacting departure, or I just contacted departure. Like, we got in the air and it was absolute go time. So I made an executive decision. I'm zooming out on my situational display here to see where along my flight path these enemies could be. And honestly, they're kind of in my patrol route, just further down. So if I were to follow the waypoints 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, we'd have to go left and then come back right. But instead, I'm just going to go ahead and skip straight towards these guys. And we're going to go try to get into an engagement. I mean, they're pretty far out. But the radar in the F-15 is so good that we can start tracking them and spot them from quite a distance away. I've been flying this jet a lot lately in BMS, and I'm not usually an air-to-air enjoyer. You can see we zoom out a little bit more on our situation display there, and we can see that they're hovering right around one of our mission waypoints. I am not really an air-to-air enjoyer. I'm more of a seed kind of player. I love suppression of enemy air defense, destruction of enemy air defense. I like to have missiles being slung my way and taking out those targets so the rest of the package can get in there and do its job. But air-to-air in the F-15, if you're a BVR fan, it is so absolutely satisfying. At this point, we've identified a target and we've got him locked up, and he's still a good distance from us, like roughly 20-ish miles. The IFF system in the F-15 is a little bit tricky sometimes, so you might see me declare with AWACS repeatedly in this video, and I think right now, like, that's like the best way to ensure you're not shooting at a friendly is to just declare with AWACS, and good things will happen if and when we do that. We got our missile off. I think this missile ends up completely missing. We do a good job at the end of the day. Like, we hit like 80-something% of our missiles, but I think that first one we sling it in a really bad situation and it doesn't connect. We lost lock almost right away. So we end up circling around. I'm like trying to find this guy. I see him on the situational display and he's like right next to me, but I can't find him. And because I can't find him, the only thing I have in my head is, like, how do I survive, right? Like, I see some search radars on the RWR. I don't really know if I'm over friendly territory or enemy territory. Like, I didn't do a good job planning this mission out. I didn't expect to actually play the mission for whatever it's worth. But we jumped in here and I'm like, oh man, I don't know where this guy is. Like, I could see him on the tactical situation display, but then he just dropped off. So I got a little more comfortable and it was time to bump out and see what we could find. So I start going back to searching enemies. I'm checking bullseye and just trying to triangulate like where people would be. I use a combination of the radar as well as the situational display to kind of determine which target I'm locking up in hopes that I can identify friend versus foe. There is an IFF system. You can press the coolie hat switch to the left and you'll get either a diamond or a circle depending on the quality, the confidence of the return from the IFF. But I'm not entirely sure how to interpret it. I don't know if high confidence means friendly, or if low confidence means enemy, or if it just means this is our best guess that there's a thing out here, and it tries to change the view of what it is on the tactical situation display. I don't really know fully, to be honest. And this is one of the areas that the manual is kind of thin with information about. To be fair, the manual is very thin on a lot of information about the F-15, and it is a work in progress, and it is a small development team, and all those things are true, right? So I'm not knocking what's going on with the F-15, but there is a lot of trial and error with a lot of outdated information. We got another guy locked up, but he's flying in the wrong direction. You see our closure rate there up at the top wasn't so good, so I jump over to this other guy, and our closure rate is better at first, but then he starts to turn away. I feel like I was really playing chess with the enemies out here in this part of the engagement. They would commit to the fight, and then they would decommit, and they started like dragging us back away. And I'm trying to conserve fuel a little bit. I could really punch this thing into afterburner, but I'm not too sure how long my sweep is supposed to take because I screwed up my knee boards and I didn't actually load the proper knee boards. So I turned my pilot model off and I was like, okay, like let's just go kill some stuff and see what happens. We'll run this patrol as long as we can, and we'll get as many kills as we can as we do that. So I'm chasing these guys down, but I'm not doing it at complete full speed here. You'll see that we're at like the maximum possible distance to engage, and I wouldn't want to take this shot at all. There's like a guaranteed miss should we take this shot. So I'm letting them drag me out. I'm zooming that tactical situation display out a little bit to try to figure out just how far away they might be taking us. And this got really scary because I'm like, man, like I again don't know if I'm over enemy territory and what they might have for surface to air missiles. You can see some SA-10s popping up on the radar, which is not a good plan. Even though we do have our jammer on, there's some search radars all over the place, which again, it just gets scary when you don't have that situational awareness. But our jammer's on, and the jammer seems to be absolutely phenomenal in the F-15. Like, I think I've only had a SAM launched at me one time, and we were on an escort mission when we were escorting a suppression of enemy air defense package, right? So, like, their job was to get shot at, and I think we got locked up, and I was able to defeat it, but one SAM launch, because usually the jammer's doing a really good job. We're moving high, we're moving fast. So you're not going to deal with a lot if you have good packages designed when it comes to evading the SAMs. It's really an air-to-air Wild West sort of situation. The radar is an absolute monster to work, though. I'm not going to lie. Here I am. As I said, I'm declaring with AWACS. I'm asking all the time, like, hey, like, give me some help. My wingman is just now catching up. The rest of the flight's like way behind. But the air-to-air radar is a monster to work, but it's very rewarding. If you can start getting it correct, you'll realize that you can see and lock targets at such an extreme range that through proper positioning and target acquisition, you can 100% set yourself up to win fights before they even start. And I think that's the key thing that you have to keep in mind when you're getting into BVR engagements, not just in the F-15, but the F-15 excels at it because of how good this radar is. But if you can position yourself perfectly at the beginning of the fight, during the search phase of the fight, then you're going to find yourself in a really good position going forward and moving on into the fight to actually get the win. So we're trying to get a good loft angle based on what the jet was telling me. We fire this missile off, and our parameters are, honestly, they're pretty good. I'm going to try to put the jet in a little bit of a defensive position, but I'm still like adjusting to how it flies compared to the F-16. It is definitely a more analog feeling experience, so I don't want to overcrank or undercrank things here. I do want to try to position this bogey off to the side. I guess it's a bandit now. I want to position him off to the side of my radar cone in hopes that I can, get out of there as quickly as possible. But I got worried about losing lock, so I turned back in on him, and I was pretty confident that we weren't going to get shot at, and our missile splashes him right there. So there's one kill. So we're down one missile that just got launched into the nether, And then the second missile found its target, and now we're back on the hunt. I know there was a two ship that was baiting us in and out, so I'm hungry and we're going after that second ship again. And I think I got him reacquired based on looking at the tactical situation display here and the radar. I tend to bounce between the track while scan modes and the single target track modes based on like what's easiest to see on the radar. You see I got a friend locked up right now, so thankfully we declared with AWACS. With the tactical situation display zoomed out to 120 nautical miles, it gets a little hard to see, but we're just going through each target and declaring with AWACS because we do have the time, we do have the distance, we have the patience needed in order to win these fights. And I'm seeing more ships pop up off to the right hand side on the tactical situation display down there. So I'm trying to think to myself, like, where in which direction do I want to take these engagements? This bandit that I'm currently tinkering with and locking up, I could see our closure rate was pretty okay. It was like 470 and climbing, I guess, but I think I saw him turn cold. I forget what I was thinking mid-flight on this one, but ultimately a lot of the workload comes down to how much you're working the radar in the F-15, and the more you work the radar, the more advantage you're going to have. It really is required to be good with the radar in order for you to actually have the situational awareness that you might expect from something like the F-16. You're going to be constantly spotlighting targets and taking a look at what you might want to shoot at. We have another guy locked up here. It did say that he was a bogey, but you see he's going the other way. He's turning cold on us. Our closure rate is dropping significantly. It's down to like 280 knots at this point. I see that we have friendlies over there, and I also see that I'm not in my area of operation anymore. I have completely gone rogue on this mission and decided, you know what? We're not going to follow those steer points one bit. We're just going to go hunt enemy aircraft. And that's really what this flight turned out to be for me. So I'm chasing this guy down and I've kind of given up on him. I'm trying to use the super search method to see if I can't lock him up, but that's like a 10-mile method kind of situation. And this guy is significantly further away from me than 10 miles. So leveraging AWACS has been very crucial for me on this flight as I'm trying to understand the symbology between the radar and the tactical situation display and trying to find the right targets. But this guy's coming in at right around 40 something miles, and I'm looking at our closure rate and it's like super high, and or at least it was, and he's making moves, maneuvering in and out. And I don't remember if I lost that lock or if I purposely broke it. Sometimes I break it and then go back into it based on how things are feeling. And it's really just a matter of pecking and hunting right here as we go through this. This jet, though, really stimulates the brain. Like, the Viper is a lot of fun to fly. If you want to compare it to the F-16, the Viper is like jumping into a really awesome sports car and just having an absolute blast as you go through the missions, right? You're flying fast, you're doing these crazy maneuvers, you're pulling 9Gs, you're getting the job done. The F-15 is more, it feels like you're a stalker, in my opinion, right? Like, I know where you are 40 miles before you know where I am. And not only do I know where you are, I've got you locked up, I'm talking to AWACS, I'm using its bullseye calls, and I am stalking you 100% of the time, and you don't even know that I'm looking at you. And then when I find that the time is right, I reach out and we strike like a snake. It's crazy. It's crazy just how much you can jump on enemy bandits with that. And it seems like they don't even have a chance. It is pure dominance. 100% pure dominance in the F-15. So there's a MiG-23 here that we got locked up, and we're flying towards him. He's not locked up, but we kind of got him. We have a bra to him, right? And I want to fight him, and something here kind of, tripped me out a little bit. So we ended up, turning away. We're going to try to reset and get a little bit better of a position. And maybe it was me hunting for a different jet. I forget, honestly, but this flight alone was just, it was so much workload. It was so much thinking that had to go into everything. And you'll see I'm using a combination, again, of the radar and that tactical situation display on the MFD to just kind of figure out where enemy targets may or may not be. And I'm still really, really far from my designated engagement zone. After a little bit of hunting around, I finally found a group of enemies that I kind of wanted to go out and poke and tinker with and see what we could do. So we get some lockage going on. These guys are real close. We fire another Fox 3 and we start cranking out. And the STT modes on this are awesome. I'm able to like switch to the other target really quick and get that second missile out. And now we're going to go into a position where we have to be super defensive. I saw the MiG-29 show up on the RWR, and I'm like, bro, like, we're dumping chaff and flare. Like, we're going to get out of here. So we're going to scrub some altitude. We're going to turn off, try to go cold a little bit. We're going to dump our countermeasures. Our missiles are in the air. If they're active, great. I don't know if I turned too early or not. I didn't really pay attention to that. I tried to hold those locks as much as I could, but now I'm using the fact that we can go fast, and I mean fast. We're at like Mach 1.2 something, and we're just gonna get some distance. We're gonna decommit from this engagement while hitting the deck, and then we're gonna turn around and recommit back into it. And I think this is one of the huge strengths with the Eagle here is the fact that you can just turn on the burner on both of these engines and get super fast. You're incredibly hard to catch. So you can take your shots and then decommit nicely from the BVR fight, and you'll have an opportunity to get away before you end up in danger. Ooh, speaking, right? Everybody's got to do it before you end up in danger. So here I am. We're going back in. We're recommitting. I'm not entirely sure what our overall status is, if these guys are hit or not. So we're going to do what we can to get them locked up. The cool thing is, in these air-to-air fights, is the AI right now in BMS is so good that they're going to do a great job at poking and prodding. Like, they're going to commit and decommit and recommit and decommit, and it's so much fun. And I'm trying to leverage the rest of my flight in this situation because I see that I have one AIM-120C left. And in my head at the time, I was like, man, I'm almost out of AMRAAM, even though I knew that I had way more than that with me. So I'm trying to make sure that they get this shot off. I am carrying AIM-120 Bravos. That's the thing, is this is just the amount of Charlies I have left. So I see that my wingman has this guy locked up, so I let him take the shot. I can see that with the tactical situation display. I wish these guys would go do something instead of hanging out with me, so I'm trying to command them to, just, go fight, go make yourselves useful. And eventually they say they're going to, but they don't fire very many missiles, if any at all. We're doing what we can to pay attention to this guy. And I think I eventually just lose patience here, which is kind of a problem. I need to keep the patience in these fights, but I turn in and I commit because I'm like, you know what? If they're not going to get it done, I might as well attempt to get it done. And so that's exactly where my head was on this flight. As I do that, I see these guys, on screen, like, pushing this target, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to take the shot. Maybe I am going to give them a chance to do their job and to help out. But I do want to keep an eye on this because I could be fired on at any moment. So I'm actually taking the time while they're pursuing that guy to zoom out and just try to get a bigger picture, a bigger lay of the land on the tactical situation display to see, are we going to get jumped from an angle that's taking place out here that we can't immediately see. And luckily, we weren't going to get jumped at all. And I'm still zooming in on this guy. I'm just trying to see where he is in the sky to see if we can't see him get splashed. That was really what I was looking for. With the lack of a helmet-mounted cueing system, it's really hard to like look the target off through the canopy and like try to see where they are in space. I didn't like what was happening here. I feel like we were getting baited, so I called the entire flight back. And I'm like, I think we're getting baited. I think this guy's gonna pull us into a situation we don't want to be in. But before I let that happen, we're gonna go ahead and give him a little bit of explosive telephone pole fun, and then I'm gonna try to pull my flight members back into safety. So we get that last AIM 120C off, and now all we have is Bravos. So I'm in weird space, man. Like I was so far outside of my flight plan that I just didn't know where I was in the world, and I didn't set up any recon steer points or anything like that, so I didn't have any idea of what could be dangerous to me. But I see this SA-10 and these SA-2s on the RWR, and I'm like, you know what? Like, the jammer's on. It really is. And that's good, but I don't like how extended we are. So I'm going to turn back in and I'm going to push back towards like our actual designated waypoints on where we're supposed to be operating. And the whole time my flight's like, hey man, I have enemies. Like, can I attack them? And I'm like, yeah, you guys can. And then I realize that they're going back into that enemy territory. So I start calling them and saying, hey, like, no more of this. Come back, weapons hold. Let's get back over to our actual area of operation, which you can see is like 60 miles away. Like we really pushed out quite a ways. So I tried to drag my flight back over here over time, and they really want to chase those guys. And I just made the smarter decision to say, hey, now's not the time to get that done. That ended up being the last like real tactical decision that I made. So I pulled everybody back in, and those contacts were so far away, we decided to go home. So on our way home, nothing eventful happened, but I just really got to sit back and enjoy what it means to fly the F-15 in BMS, and it's so good. It really is so good. There are some things that I wish were easier to do or made more sense or had more documentation around it. But when it comes to having a full fidelity F-15 experience, one, this is the only one that you can get, right? If you really consider what else is out there as a competitor. And two, it fits so well in the way that BMS works when it comes to like dynamic campaigns and just the overall gameplay loop that Falcon BMS has to offer. What you will find though is that almost everything you're tasked with, to no surprise, is an air-to-air style mission, and it really does make your gameplay experience one-sided. So like if I had to say anything negative about the F-15, because I don't want it to be, unrealistic here. Like if I had to say anything negative about it, it's less about the module and just more about the role that it fills in the battle space. And this is a me thing. I like to vary the role that I get to take on from mission to mission, and I don't think you get to do that if you take on the role of an F-15C pilot. But if I had to go air to air, and I was given the choice between an F-16 and the F-15, I think honestly I'm taking the F-15 85 to 90% of the time. The workload is heavier, it's more stimulating, the kills are more satisfying, and honestly, that feeling of just being an air stalker and jumping targets before they have a chance, it just feels so good in the BVR space. Now, if I had to get into an up close and personal fight, if we were merged, I think I'm going to want the Viper in that situation. A few things that I noticed that maybe will help you if you start flying the F-15 is be careful about what buttons you bind in the launcher. I noticed something, for example, like the steer point button, the increment and decrement button for steer points. If I have that bound to an actual physical button, I can no longer click those buttons in the cockpit. So you might run into a weird situation where you're unable to interact with the cockpit clickable buttons if you bind certain actions to your HOTAS. So just keep that in mind. I also did notice some weirdness with like the radio frequency knobs. I gotta double check this, but I think there's like a missing or a hidden click point to change the frequencies. But it looks like the frequencies that you can put in are extremely limited. And these are things that I would expect that get addressed in future updates for the module. It is a small team, right? And updates and development happen at a slow pace as a result. But what we currently have is actually really good. I have seen on the forum that
Pod
people
1-1
struggle
Ghost
with
on
the
Falcon,
paddle
continuing
switch
down
when
4,
they're
runway
landing,
36.
to disable the nose wheel steering. I haven't had this issue. One of the tips I could give you is to make sure that you have full weight on the front wheel. If you have full weight on all the wheels, then it seems like that paddle switch works no problem. So I always wait until the nose of the aircraft is down on the ground before I pull that paddle switch to disengage the nose wheel steering. That being said,
Focus
I
1,
don't find
finish
it
on
to
South,
be
wing 310,
super
at
squirrely
2
with the
knots, runway
rudder.
36. You're cleared
I
for
also
takeoff.
have good rudders, so that's something that I find to be quite helpful. I would like to see a different style AOA bracket on the HUD, but a simulation is what a simulation is. The other thing I noticed is you can bind a button for flaps, but it doesn't seem to do anything. The flaps seem to be managed automatically, so I hopefully that changes in a future update. Like right now the flaps are down, but I didn't put them down by any way, shape, or form. It just kind of does it for you. Same thing with raising them when we take off. Like I'm not actually raising or managing these flaps at all. I do think that there are talks of adding the helmet mounted queuing system to this, but I think it was like stated that it's in a much further down the road future update. There's a very limited information about this. You can find some discussions though on the forum. If we're really talking about though graphical fidelity, and I know it's a huge shift, BMS, especially 4.38, has been known to look absolutely amazing compared to the predecessors. I have to admit, the F-15 looks the best out of every aircraft in the game. And I know they spend a lot of time, creating PBR cockpits for some of the other F-16 models, but the F-15 looks amazing. And it looks absolutely stunning in VR. I think it's my
Pod 1-1,
favorite
finish on
aircraft
South, wing
to fly
310,
with
at 2
in
knots,
VR,
runway 36.
and I
Cleared for
think that's
landing.
saying
Get
a
geared
lot. I,
down.
I have seen some
Focus 1,
people
finish on
report
South,
though that
expect watch for incoming traffic.
they're struggling with
Focus
performance
1, contact
with
departure.
the F-15C because of how good the cockpit looks. I did also run into another weird bug where one of the switches on the like the upfront display there, the upfront control panel, it like disappeared. Like I could click it and move it, but like the physical 3D asset was like gone. It was really strange how it happened, but I managed to get it to come back by just restarting the mission. It wasn't game breaking. It was more just like surprising that it happened. Landing this thing is honestly pretty easy, especially if you bush fly it on in like I tend to do. It doesn't fly very nice slow, so you kind of gotta think about that as you come in. But it is a pretty smooth. Maintaining the angle of attack on landing is a little bit tough. I find that I'm probably too shallow. I can probably yank back a lot more without risking a tail strike. But here's your pro tip, right? Around 100 knots, nose wheel comes down, boom, full weight on wheels. And now I have the paddle switch engaged, right? I have the paddle switch engaged like right before I hit the brakes. I did that on purpose to test like when you should be engaging that to dampen the nose wheel steering. All right, time to see how we did. Looks like we got 5 hits and 1 miss, which resulted in 4 air-to-air kills for us in the F-15 today.